Okay, so the first topic is land and water, and I could have put biodiversity. Okay, this one's going to be pretty brief actually, this video. So, well, a pretty brief topic. We're going to spend a lot more time on, well, quite a bit more time on non-renewable resources and a lot more time on pollution. Okay. So I think there'll be one video on this topic probably. So, the original scarce resource, we already talked about that. So we humans, Homo sapiens, have occupied the vast majority of the global land surface for at least the last 12,000 years, and most of the global land surface for upwards of 50,000 years. The development of agriculture, which was spread out over quite a long period and occurred in different times in different places, as you know, but around about 10,000 years ago or 12,000, that allowed population to expand. But it might have made us more, not less, vulnerable to drought if we're thinking about sustainability. Did the development of agriculture enhance sustainability in the sense of ensuring that people could get a steady income, that we weren't on an unsustainable path? And I'm arguing here, not necessarily. Why would that be? You might want to pause the video here and have a think about it before you hear what I have to say about that. Okay, so why might agriculture make people more, not less, vulnerable to drought? Let me see if I can sort this out. Yeah. So we're over here. So here we are, and here I am, and I need food. Okay, how do I reduce my vulnerability to drought? Basically, what I need is a portfolio of options, right? I need different options for food. So maybe I can go and get food here, 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 or here. Okay, not so artistic. Saving time. I could have drawn some forest and the sea and whatever. Okay, to go, and I've got perhaps all these different places where I could collect food. This would be pre-agriculture. Okay, I got lots of different sources of food. Maybe the drought strikes and it knocks out one or two or three of these, but probably if I've got a decent portfolio, which most of foragers would have, like hunter-gatherers, you've got a pretty good chance that you can get through it. Okay. But now imagine that you've developed agriculture. And basically then, you've got this dominant source of food, which is where you grow your crops. And Malthus tells us that if your agriculture has become pretty productive, what ends up happening is that the population is going to go up, right? So we've got much more productive system now, according to this picture, because now we can, from the total land area, we can now support 5 people rather than just 1, or 50 rather than 10, if you like. Because by growing our crops, we can get much more out of the land. But now imagine there's a drought. Okay, and unless we have 5 different crops in different places, which often we might not have, we might be quite dependent on one crop, If that gets knocked out by the drought, then we're in an awful lot of trouble, right? This stuff is still out there, and we might even still have the knowledge to harvest it. But there's 5 times too many people, right, to live off this stuff. Plus, some of it is probably knocked out by the drought as well. We're in a lot of trouble. Okay. So, how that's the development of agriculture allowed population to expand might have made us more, not less, vulnerable to drought. How can a group of people, or even an entire country, reduce its vulnerability to harvest failures? Note I said harvest failures now, not drought. It could be storms or whatever, or some virus that strikes down the crops, etc. So in general, we're back to this portfolio, right? To reduce risk, you want a portfolio of assets, so to speak, or of options, and you want the returns on the different assets or options, you want them not to be too closely correlated. Remember your statistics, I hope. You don't want them to be closely correlated. If they're closely correlated, then if the drought gets one of them, it'll get all of them. Yeah, and that doesn't help. You want some options that are resistant to drought, some others that are resistant to too much rain, and others that are resistant to cold and whatever. So one option for that is to actually diversify your cropping strategy. But in modern economies, a much better option, I would say, typically, is to set up trade. Often we tend to think, oh, like if we're trading, we're making ourselves vulnerable to food insecurity because we're dependent on others for our food. But if we're not trading, well, then we're super vulnerable to crop failure, right? If we're trading, unless harvests, if this is the globe, and here we are, and we're trading with people all over, unless harvests all over the globe are closely correlated, then it's like, okay, maybe our harvest fails, but in several of the other places, the conditions that gave us a bad harvest might have given good harvests in other places. That's typically what we see in the data, okay, for the past. So trade is a great insurance policy for food security, or it seems to be, has been in the past. Another great one is to have money, right? If you've got money, then you can generally get hold of food, even if you're maybe growing food. Like if I grow food in the garden and it all fails, which it mostly did last time I tried, I'm not going to be short of food, right? I go and buy some. So what's the long run global trend with respect to hunger and vulnerability to hunger? On a 50 to 60 year perspective, it's strongly down. Remember when we looked at that data. But with regard to this trade and the trend, there is the question mark about climate change, that maybe with climate change we could get correlated disasters, correlated bad harvests all over the globe, pushing hunger back up and creating global food shortages. Okay, and then the first question, which we'll talk about in class, is about Engel's law. So that's up to you guys to check out. Okay, let's see what else we've got on this topic. Let me see. Okay. I said this would be a short video on land, but we've already up to 10 minutes, so I think I'll stop it here and start a new video.